Hi guys, Jessie Khaira here. I'm trying to figure out why I always look darker on one side. I don't know what it is. My phone, whatever. Anyways, thank you. Welcome for being here. Welcome to the business of being enough. I know I said I was going to do my calls at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but I've decided I'm just going to do them at any point in the day as long as I show up on Wednesdays. And I am super stoked because today my guest is Gurminder Banga of Banga Studios. So I'm actually going to bring him on so we can start. But Banga Studios is based out of Toronto. They are international photographers. Hi, Gurminder.
What's up? How's it going?
Not bad. I haven't seen you in so long. This feels so weird.
I know. I think the last time was in Calgary.
Yeah, we saw each other in Banff in was that in 2019 or 2018?
I can't remember, but maybe 2 years ago, I want to say. I think about 2 years. It feels like about 2 years ago.
So I know I don't always share this, but I'm an avid go-over of Engage, and I love Engage. And Gurminder, that's how Gurminder and I met, was at Engage, and he has been doing their portraits at Engage for the last few years, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've had a really, really great time. I've been really fortunate. Rebecca and Catherine have kind of given me the opportunity to just kind of capture these epic portraits of so many great people that are in the industry.
Yeah, no, for sure. So now, for those who don't know who you are, if you could introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Gurminder Banga from Banga Studios. We're a photography studio. We initially started in Toronto, but we travel all over. So that's kind of what we do for Banga Studios. But personally, I do a lot of passion projects to kind of capture people in their best element. And you can check that over at my personal side.
Which is at Gurminder Banga. Or I'll put it in.
G.Banga.
Yeah, when I share this onto IGTV, I'll tag him.
Awesome.
Now, I love this story, and you don't even know I was going to ask you about it. But so I want you to talk about, you actually took over your dad's business.
Yeah. So
I would love for you to talk about how you took it over, because you totally revamped it after you took it over.
Mm-hmm. So it kind of so in 1989, my dad started Banga Photo and Portrait Studio, and back then he was running the business. He was doing well. It was like photo finishing and family pictures and weddings, but imagine like 10, 15, 20 years ago, weddings are not what they are now. Very flat, very standard. Your uncles and aunties are still planning your weddings. Sometimes there's the Dolly and Bonnie, the photographer, videographer, don't even really go to it. So, weddings were very different back then. And my dad, once he kind of got a little bit older, he's like, listen, like none of my kids are interested in taking over the business. And photography, videography, I always say it's almost like a young man's industry. Like it requires a lot of energy to run around and hustle and get certain shots and connect with your clients. So my dad was just like, none of the kids are interested, so I'm going to start a different business. So he went on and started something else in manufacturing. And when I was doing my undergrad in school, we owned this studio space in Toronto, and no one was ever there. So I used to just study out of the space. And about 12 years ago when I took over, I just felt that there was, photography was kind of flat, right? So I'm like, I want to see what's possible. So I kind of got into it through almost by an accident. So my dad had his business, but there was nothing really happening with it. So I would do passport pictures or whatever came in the door. And then I decided, hey, I want to kind of see what's possible. So we started going to wedding shows. We started shooting our friends' events. And kind of through that, the business could start to take off. Because what I learned in school and business school, I got to actually apply into our business. And we were just like a fresh faces to the industry at that time.
Yeah. And so when I first met Gurminder, I think it was like the first or second Engage. And I see pictures of him hanging off the edge of a freaking hot air balloon, man. In the air, hot air balloon. Those pictures were magical, but I was like, you're crazy. Like, how is your mom not yelling at you to not do this stuff? But on a personal basis, you now have been doing meditation workshops, and you do coaching and stuff, right? Or am I totally wrong there?
No, you're 100% right. So we've been shooting weddings for a very, very long time. And, I always tell people that's only one element. I always tell people that, just because, like, just don't put yourself in a box. I think that's my biggest thing is that, as artists, we're multidimensional, as people, we're multidimensional. So if you learn a skill in one area, like, see how you can transfer that skill into different parts of your life. So that's one of the things that I'm a real big advocate for. So, about 5 years ago, I started changing, like, the people and the environments that I was shooting in. So, I do like these day in the life projects where I spend a whole day with people to kind of capture what reality looks like. So I've done it with, a few fairly influential people. And through that, I've kind of got to kind of open my eyes to what else is kind of out there. So the day in the life projects, I do a lot of those. And I would say now, a big part of me is like, just how do you, like, as a photographer, a lot of photographers like, okay, how do I get more business, or how do I grow, or how do I become better? And I'm like, number one, you got to work on yourself. I'm like, that's the biggest project you got to work on. Everyone says it and they say it for a reason. So I don't want to sound like a broken record either. So I found myself spending a lot of time, tightening up my morning routines, doing things that I enjoy to do. Because then once I kind of serve myself, I can go ahead, sometimes do meditation, we do group coaching, a lot of self-development, a lot of leadership work to help people, become the people that they actually want to be.
Yeah, no, I love that. And and that is why I started doing my Wednesday lives, because the one thing I realize is that it all starts from within. The success of our business, how quickly we pivot, how we go from reacting to planning and being strategic, it all starts from within. And I love that, I keep saying I'm going to attend one of your calls, and then just like, I'm going to be there, and I never make it on.
We're going to do one, don't worry.
But yes, it's going to happen. But I wanted to know, for those that are starting out, sorry, I'm reading off of my phone. I shouldn't be staring down. So in your journey, and this is, and I feel like this is something we both really talk about and do, and it's okay to sound like a broken record because you never know how many times someone needs to hear it before they start applying it. But what were some of the mindset challenges that you experienced along your journey, and how did you overcome them?
I think one of the things that I feel is most important if you're starting a business or doing anything is that, understanding what is your intention behind what you are actually doing. I think a lot of times you think your intention is one thing, but it's truly something totally different. And I think until you actually understand what your intention is going to be, only then are you going to actually be able to act out of that. So for the longest time, yes, so I was able to take over my parents' business, but for the longest time, I didn't realize, but in the background, I was just trying to prove them wrong, prove to them that, hey, listen, I'm capable of doing this. I could be successful. I could be all of these things. So even though I didn't know that, that's kind of the motor and the mechanism that's kind of running in the background, because I'm seeking some sort of approval from my parents. And, for some people, it might be from their parents, it might be from their friends, it might be from their colleagues. It could be whoever it is, but it's like, if you don't understand why you're doing certain things, like what's the root cause behind it, you're just going to kind of be running this hamster wheel. So this idea of success, you're never going to feel success because you're expecting it to be given to you by someone else, by someone else's words, by their affirmations, by their, how they look at you. And that's just not how it works. So for me, I noticed that, I had these expectations, from my parents, that I wanted them to make me feel a certain way. And I realized that, hey, listen, like, my parents, they know how to love me the way they know how to love me, and that's totally fine. And my parents are very loving and kind people, and just accepting that that's just who they are. And I think once I've accepted that part of it, then I was able to, okay, I can do whatever I want to do because I want to do whatever I want to do. And they're going to love me no matter what. That's irrelevant of the case. Whereas before I was trying to do things seeking some sort of approval. So I think if you understand your intention first, then you can go out and then serve other people. So now with a lot of things I do on my personal page on g.banga is like, okay, how can I be of service to other people? What are things that I've kind of been through or gone through that I've learned from that I can then pass on and pass forward? So like, meditation, or some of the group coachings that we do, or some of the fitness stuff that I do, or, sharing people like my morning routine and the process of it. Like those are things, though I'm doing those I'm doing this because I actually genuinely want to help someone. If someone gets some help, amazing. If not, that's okay too, because sometimes people just need to hear it at the right time, or you never know how you can impact someone's day. So I think just in the beginning, I think the mistakes were just not being clear on why I was doing what I was doing, and just actually taking a moment to reflect on it. Because initially it's always like, society teaches us that in order to be successful, you got to drive a certain car, you got to look a certain way, you got to live in a certain area, you got to hang out with certain people. But it's like you got to figure, okay, what do you define as success? I remember myself. I always thought, oh, when I make it, I'm gonna buy myself a Beamer. So when I had enough money to buy myself that car, I still didn't buy one because I don't really like. It's not even. I don't really care for it. I just said it because I thought that's what happened. So it's like, just really finding out like what is the things that are gonna make you happy, and what can you do to experience the happiness right now instead of waiting for happiness to come at some future point? Because then at some future point you're gonna want something else.
Exactly. And it's I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is it doesn't matter what I have, because if I'm not thankful for what I have today,
Mm-hmm.
it won't matter what I have. And I'm like emotional right now, and I'm trying to like keep myself together because I heard you say like the whole parents' approval thing.
Mm.
And that still is a sore spot for me because
Yeah.
I spent years trying to do better. It was always, I would hit a milestone, I would do something different, I'd have an achievement, but there was still this empty feeling inside. So I was going for the next thing. And then I would go hit that next goal, and then there would still be that emptiness. So I was going for the next thing. And it was, I really didn't know what was driving me and when I hit a point where I thought, okay, if this is it, this is the one thing that's going to make me feel fulfilled, and this is the one thing, when that one thing didn't do it,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when I crashed and burned, because I was like, what's going on here? And that's when I had to really connect with who I am and not who I've put myself out to be, and that it's okay to not do this, and it's okay for my version of success not to be the same as somebody else's version of success.
Totally, totally. Well, thanks for sharing. That's really vulnerable of you.
Yeah, it's now I don't know if this is an Indian thing, because we both are obviously
Mm-hmm.
but and I do agree with you that our parents tried, but I feel like because we're both first generation, right? So
Yeah.
it's like we've got this Canadian lifestyle, and then we had parents that were coming in and they had their lifestyle, and then we're kind of like trying to stay true to them, but then find our place where everything is so different. And it's just like finding that medium of, okay, I am this person, this is where my family comes from, but now here I am in Canada, or wherever anyone may be. And it's just like you have to adapt, and like knowing your intentions and really understanding what drives you and what makes you you is going to be so important for success and even just being happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not looking at
Yeah, I think sometimes what I find, when you talk about just like parents, and I remember I was at this conference one time, and if you can visualize this, what they had at the conferences, they're like, anyone that's 20, I think it was no, like anyone that was 18 to 23, can you guys stand up and stand in the front of the room? So literally all these, like, in my eyes, kids, stood up, and they're all just standing in front. So imagine if you can visualize all these younger, like, men and women just standing up. They look very innocent, they look very vulnerable, they look kind of like they're not sure who they are yet, and they all stood up. And then the instructor was like, this is the age that your parents had you at. And I was like, holy shit, that's the age that our parents had us at. So I think regardless of, culture, ethnicity, a lot of people had kids much younger back then, and our parents were just trying to figure it out as well. Just like we're trying to figure things out as we go now, is that our parents were trying to figure things out for us at that time. A lot of them, they came to this country, they didn't know the language, they didn't have friends, they didn't have money, to working these dead-end jobs and just trying to figure something out. So it's like, sometimes we feel that, we might have, miss some sort of emotional attachment or connection with them, but it's just that they weren't able to provide that because there were so many other things that they were providing for. So I think it's always asking yourself, like, hey, am I looking for something from someone who actually knows how to give that to me?
yeah
Because sometimes we want someone, and it doesn't have to be a parent, it could be your partner or couple. We want them to say something to us. We're expecting something from them, but they don't know how to say that because they never received that themselves, right? So if they've never received it or heard it, from their parents or from someone else, how can you expect that from them as well? So, I know for myself, like I said, like my parents are very loving and very kind, and my dad, he was an artist, so I never had that struggle of like, I want to be an artist, I don't want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. Just that's what I want. I never had that problem at all. Where I know a lot of people they struggle with that. And I remember one day I called him and I was like, listen, Dad, I'm like, I need to tell you something. And I was on the phone with him, and he's like, what is it? He's like, I'm at work. I was like, oh shit. And then I'm like, Dad, I wanted to say that I really love you. And that was the first time that I think I said it and I meant it, right? I've said it many, many times, but I actually meant it like with inside of me without an expectation of him saying anything in return. So on the return, he was just like, okay, I'm at work. And I was laughing, I was crying, the whole works. And because I accepted how he said it to be the love that he had to show. But then before we jumped off the call, he's like, listen, I love you too. Then we hung up. I was a mess. But it was just, to me, it's like, it made me realize that, hey, you expect people to say things that they just don't know how to say. And sometimes that's not fair. So it's like you have to be able to say those things to yourself, and you have to mean it. And just because they don't say it, that doesn't mean you can't say it. Exactly. I think we think because we don't say it, because they don't say it, we're not going to say it because we want to like close our heart and kind of put a box around it. But it's like, no, you have to open that and let it be and kind of teach them the way without, being so angry and upset and annoyed with them. So yeah, that's how I kind of feel about all of that.
No, that's freaking amazing. And it's so true. And it's just, I feel sometimes we forget that not everyone is like us, and not everyone will show things the way we show them. And we need to learn to accept people. And it could be family, it could be customers, it could be really anybody for who they are and how they show things, because we don't know what's turned them into the person that they've become.
Yeah.
Right? And man, I had struggles raising my kid. Like when I became a mom at 29, I can't imagine my mom at 21, like just trying to figure out who she is and having me. Okay, so for those that you feel like are starting off in the industry, or they're in the industry and they're just really having a hard time showing up. Like, and when I say showing up, I mean being true to themselves, and like how you said, having intention. If you could give them one piece of advice to help them figure out what their intention for what they're doing is, what would it be?
I think when you strip it all down, your intention should come down to love. I think at the end of the day, it has to come down to love in order for you to like fully, truly enjoy it, whatever that is. I think if your intention is, hey, I want to make money, that's okay too. But don't lie to yourself and say, no, I'm doing it because I love doing it. No, because you're lying to yourself. Just be honest. Like, hey, listen, if I'm starting this business because I want to make $1 million, and that's what I want to do. But then don't say, hey, no, I'm doing this because I want to help people and support people, because that's not really, you're kind of confusing yourself in that process. I think this industry in specific, and I'm sure it kind of applies across the board, is that it's really easy to collaborate with people, We had a situation where we had to find like a backup photographer in another country, and we had to reach out to different people, and this industry is so supportive. They will help you, they'll bend backwards, they'll change their things to be there for you. So, but I also think what happens is where we naturally start comparing ourselves to other people. So it's like, the more you keep comparing yourself with people, you're limiting how often you can actually create. And I think as a photographer, I think actually in any part of this industry is that there is something that you can create that's going to get you excited and make you feel passionate about what you do. Because chances are, like, you probably got into planning because you love weddings, you love being around people, you love that idea, that element, that fun. But it's like you can still create that experience on a much smaller scale, more intimate, and then use that as a piece of content, or use it as a piece of portfolio that you can then share with other people. So I think a lot of people are not spending enough time actually creating things that they actually want to create. It's like, hey, I have this great idea, but then you don't put into action. And I think just small things, like in the morning when you get up, I always say, don't look at your phone. Like, don't look at your phone in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah, because what's his name? My friend Jay, well, he talks about it. I think he says it the best. He's like, imagine every morning when you wake up, you have 100 people rushing into your door, demanding things from you, demanding your attention. Like imagine how overwhelming that's gonna feel. So that's what it's like when you pick up your phone every morning and you're just pulled and paced in different ways, and your body needs a and your mind needs a second to just kind of warm up and ramp up to the day. And for myself, my mornings when I get the most creative work done. So it's like, just spend, even if it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and work on a project every day, 15 minutes for a week. How much that's going to be, like, what, 2 3 hours at the end of the week, over a month. Like, you can produce whatever you want, you can create things. So I think it's really important that you spend time actually doing the things that you want to do to create for yourself, versus just looking at what everyone else is doing and feeling like, hey, I'm not going to be at that point. Because it takes years and experience to get to where you want to get to. But as long as your intention is there, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned about the phone. I always am telling entrepreneurs, do not look at your phone. Take care of yourself, take care of your mental well-being before you jump on that phone, because it doesn't matter what's on there, because it's not going to change an hour later, but at least you're in a better place to deal with whatever may be on there. But I love the analogy of 100 people at your door.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just in a little box. What are you working towards? Are you starting anything new? Are you doing more of your group calls? Like, I believe you started coaching entrepreneurs.
hmm
Or
Yeah, so it's ever since, like, even before kind of all this stuff kind of hit, we're looking at what a transition can look like. We didn't want to just react right when kind of COVID happened and say, hey, I want you to start this new business or launch this. I didn't want to be in a reactionary state. I just kind of wanted to deal with the things that we had to deal with in front of us, because I know how myself and my team is that once we kind of go in, we're going to go all in. So I just want to make sure, I'm actually kind of being maybe slower than it should be to make a decision, but we're kind of doing it very cautiously because we want to make sure that we do it with the right intention. But I think for myself, kind of what I've learned about myself is that I genuinely enjoy, like, educating. I genuinely enjoy learning. I enjoy growing. So I need to make sure that whatever we're going to do next is kind of a lot around those kind of concepts. Because if it's not, I'm not going to ever feel that, hey, I'm really using my purpose and my passion to the fullest. So I'm not sure what that looks like. I know we did group coaching for 3 months. People got amazing results. I loved what I really enjoyed doing it. I took a pause on it because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just kind of reset and see what this can look like and how can we impact more people. Is it creating more interesting content for myself? I enjoy doing that. What is it? I'm not. So for a long time, we were experimenting. I think I was kind of in the experimental phases for about like 6 months to maybe a year now. And I feel like now I've experimented a lot of different things. I kind of know what I like and what I don't like. And then soon, I think once November kind of finishes, that's when we're going to really start kind of moving forward. Whereas, in the past, I would just, like, I have an idea, I want to do this idea, I just run off and I do it. And then I'm like, oh, I don't really like this. And I change halfway. Where, I want to make sure I spend more time in the experimental phase first and then go and then kind of actually action out. So I don't know what it looks, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's going to definitely be kind of more in the ways to see how can we be of service and how can we help other people, whether it's businesses, whether it's their personal life, whether it's whatever it is. I don't know exactly what, but it's going to be around that for sure.
well, I love the energy and the aura that you bring, and I think anybody who isn't following Gurminder needs to be following him, and I'll make sure to
Appreciate
put it
that.
in the comments when I do the IGTV, once I put it onto IGTV. But um, I personally love what you're doing, and I love seeing men in our community showing up in the way that you are, because I feel the future generations need it. And I feel even not even future, but I've seen more and more entrepreneurs talk about mindset and who they are, and it's just so important, and I love everything you do. But before I let you go, if you could share your, well, I'll put your IG handle, but yeah, how can people follow you? And well, he says something at the end of November. So if you've loved what he's been talking about, I suggest you go and follow him, because when December comes around, I can't wait to hear what you're going to announce.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So G.Banga, that's the best way to kind of follow what I'm doing, but post most of my stuff on my personal stuff, and all the wedding stuff is through Banga Studios, of course. But G.Banga, that's where you'll kind of really get to know what I'm up to and what I'm doing. And Jessie, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you for acknowledging me. Thank you for the appreciation. And, I know you've kind of made a massive change, like a shift in your business and your direction and all that as well. And it's not easy to kind of make a real bold statement that, hey, like this is what I'm doing and this is what it is. And I think it's good because it's kind of moving you in the direction that you actually want to go in. And I know that's kind of been on your mind for a while too. So,
Yeah.
So I think since I met you, I think that was kind of
3 years. It's only been 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
no, 4 years at least. Because I met you in 2014. I think that's when I started thinking about it. But it was 2017 is when I started taking action, and last year is when I finally was like, okay, you know what? I can't fight myself anymore. I just need to let go and live.
Yeah. So I know that I say that to people too, is that it takes time, right? Some of these processes, they take time. It may look that it's happening overnight, but people have thought of it for a while, and then it becomes like, from that initial idea, from that thought, then you got to put the work in and then project it out there. And it takes time for things to kind of circle back, and we want things to happen faster than they actually can.
100%. Okay, but it was so great seeing you and talking to you, and I look forward to seeing more of what you do. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And I will share this onto IGTV and tag Gurminder. So if you're watching this later, if you're watching the replay, just check the comments and his information will be there.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you everyone that tuned in. Jessie, thank you so much. I'm excited to kind of work on one of these 2 weddings with you next year.
Yes.
And we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.